What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to episode 26 of The Daily Entrepreneur. I'm James. I'm here with Jack and Josh. And without further ado, let's get right into today's topic. So starting with Budweiser is going to be missing out on $75 million that they spent on beer and ads to be featured at the World Cup. And this comes because Qatar, who's hosting the World Cup right now, they said, hey, we're not selling beer. We're not selling any alcohol at our games. So what are your guys' thoughts on this and the hit that Budweiser is going to be taking?
Honestly, I think it's just a bad look for Qatar. Like they said originally when they were hosting the games that they were going to allow the sale of alcohol and people to drink at the World Cup, and now they're not allowing it. So I think it's shitty, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just a big culture difference, but to be honest from a business standpoint, I mean, currently right now Qatar's GDP is 180 billion, but they are spending 220 billion on the World Cup. So they're spending more on this event than their actual country's GDP is worth. And so a lot of people are saying that this World Cup being hosted in Qatar is actually just a bad investment for Qatar all around. They're just going to be pouring money into this to bring attraction to the country and to where the World Cup's being held. And it's just not going as planned. There's been pictures of people sending food from there that it just doesn't look good. The quarters are out in these old shipping containers.
All the videos and posts I've seen have just been pretty negative. I hate to say it.
So let me ask you guys then, do you guys have any thoughts on what Budweiser's doing with that beer right now?
If anything, I'm just moving on to the next event. You got to keep it pushing. It's a sunk cost. I can't sell it at the World Cup, but I'm just moving on to the next thing.
Yeah. What they're doing is they're giving it to the country that wins the World Cup. They put a tweet out about it. So that's what they're gonna do. They said, yeah, it's like New Year or something. You'll have to go look at it. But yeah,
they're just giving it away for free.
I guess so, because it's beer. It's gonna go bad eventually, and they posted the picture of all the beer that was packaged up for Budweiser, ready to get sent to Qatar. So
I mean, it's alcohol. Alcohol doesn't really go bad.
Twitter CEO Elon Musk did a poll to reinstate Donald Trump, and he got 15 million votes. The vote was 52% yes, he can come back on the platform, and that's what happened. Trump is now back on the platform. So I got a question for you guys. Do you think this is a fair way to let public figures that have been banned to come back on the platform, is to do a mass poll?
I like the concept of doing the mass poll. However, I do think that regardless, I don't know if that should be the end-all, be-all. Because, for example, there may be someone who's maybe in the majority of, unpopular or, unfavored, but there may still be a reason why, he should still be able to create content. So, just because someone may be unlikable, I still don't know if that's necessarily, the best way to go. Because that was close. So, if it was, 49-51 and Trump lost and they didn't put him back on Twitter, then I'd kind of be like, I mean, come on, he was the president at one point.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. It's like we are, the home of America, land of the free, say whatever you want, the land of free speech. Yeah. But here we are banning, our own political figures and people that do have some of the biggest voices, whether they're popular or not. I don't think people should get censored, especially over a platform like Twitter.
Well, it's really weird because this whole voting system with this tweet is a very decentralized viewpoint of looking at things. It's the whole point of a decentralized autonomous organization where everybody's say in the platform is equal. And that's, I think, what Elon was trying to go with that vote. I think what Michael Saylor, big finance guy, he put in the comments under the poll, it actually got a lot of votes, that what they should do is for major decisions like this, if you're wanting to be decentralized, it's just a poll that is posted at the top of everyone's feed. And so obviously Elon's, I don't know for sure if he's the most followed person on Twitter, but I think he is.
He's definitely one of the most.
Definitely one of the most followed. And so clearly if he tweets a poll about something important, it's going to reach people that don't even follow him. Apparently 134 million people saw the poll. It could be more.
I mean, 15 million votes, that's probably got to be one of the most engaging Twitter polls of all time. I think that would be a really neat feature to Twitter, is if they literally just had a whole subsection of just polls. Yeah. And maybe you could divide it by country, and all these different outlets where I just think it'd be really neat.
Well, the interesting part is you can mark if this was you could mark on there, this is a platform decision. So it's not just a poll about anything random. It's literally this is going to impact how the Twitter platform moves. The only confusing part is this is a decentralized move, but Twitter still has aspects that are very centralized. And we're moving away from that with the new leadership in charge. But it's just very interesting that that's the way that decision was conducted. And then other decisions like Kanye, Andrew Tate, like those people,
Peterson.
Jordan Peterson, those didn't have a poll on them. They were just reinstated. So clearly, I guess maybe the people at Twitter or Elon himself was just like, I think that they were taken off for reasons that don't need to be polled. They're just like, we're taken off for no reason. Like, sure, people didn't like what they said at a point in time, but they're just putting them on. I think it's just very interesting that it makes sense that he was trying to give it to the people. I think Elon also said that he wants to have a council of equal political opinions on each side of the spectrum, as well as people in the middle that all serve on a council that make decisions like this. But he didn't go that route for Trump, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I just think the poll route would be a good way, but I think it's time we move on.
Disney recently just let go of its CEO, Bob Chapek, and now Bob Iger, the former CEO of Disney, is back in power. You know, he's done great things like acquire Marvel, Pixar, and Lucasfilms. What are your guys' thoughts on this major CEO coming back? As it honestly reminds me of another major CEO that came back at one point in time and impacted and dropped one of the most revolutionary devices of all time. Do you guys know who I'm talking about?
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. So what do you guys think about this move of like you put a new CEO in power and then you bring somebody back?
I wonder what their thought process was.
Yeah.
Like I'm wondering if they're like, man, maybe we had it better than we thought.
First ask, because you probably would know, was there a reason for them letting go of the current CEO?
So it was just an accumulation of things. So first of all, Florida's major work and their bread and butter, Disney World in Florida, had major beef with the politicians down there, mainly being Ron DeSantis. There was no relation between Disney and Florida's highest governing official. They were butting heads the entire time that Bob Shape. Big problem. So anything that Disney was trying to do in Florida, DeSantis was not having it because they weren't working together. Whereas like when Iger was in power, they didn't really seem to have that problem. The second thing was there's a major lawsuit on the Marvel thing with Disney Plus with Scarlett Johansson, one of the biggest actresses that they've ever had featured on a Disney Plus product. And she basically just went to, I don't know the specifics of the lawsuit, but a war with a lawsuit over the way the Black Widow movie was released. And apparently the decisions made by the CEO were just not, they caused all the havoc. And so there were a couple other things, especially having to do with a lot of the different policies and requirements, especially going with some CRT stuff and a lot of woke stuff that was happening with the new CEO that was in place that they were putting in. And Disney's stock has just been tanking ever since he was in charge. And so I think this is why they let him go and brought back Bob Iger. I mean, Bob Iger's track record as the Disney CEO is impeccable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and he's the one that brought Disney Plus into the fold before, and then.
Did Bob Iger, did he step down originally?
Yeah, he stepped down and they hired somebody new. It wasn't like he just walked away.
Yeah, that was my biggest question. I was wondering how that relationship ended prior.
I think maybe the biggest takeaway from this again is, obviously I'm sure the governor, Ron DeSantis, and Bob, the original, what was his last name?
Bob Iger.
No, the one.
Chapek.
So Bob Chapek and Ron, it's like, politically, I'm sure they were polar opposite people and just did not get along. Probably a lot of the regulations that Disney may have had to follow or that they wanted to have conducted through like legislation, they probably just didn't get along. And
You got to think of the time period. Look at Ron DeSantis' views are about the whole pandemic and a lot of the stuff going there. Absolutely. And if you take someone that's on the opposite side of the spectrum and you're talking about one of the biggest, probably the biggest theme park in the world.
So yeah, it definitely seems like it's like really a relationship problem, and so I'm sure that Bob Iger, he's got a very impressive track record that he'll probably be able to go back on.
I think I saw a tweet today that people were honestly, they were saying, is this a bad look for Disney to bring in their old CEO versus a new candidate to take over? Reason being is just, does this show that this individual, the hands of this company relies on them, and so if he walks away, does the ship sink? Because a lot of people thought about that with Apple. Like when Steve Jobs died, Apple stock tanked.
No, I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
I think results speak for themselves. Ultimately, you either deliver or you don't.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if it's Bob Iger.
If anything,
or
it's a bad look on Bob Chapek.
Yeah,
He's getting the boot. He's coming in.
Yeah, I think it's crazy.
Daddy's home.
Like apparently, I think Chapek was like part of Disney. Like he was like Iger's right hand man, and I guess when he just was the main guy, he just made all these like terrible decisions. Yeah. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave us a subscribe. We got a lot more content coming, and quote of the day is I guess you just cut people off when you don't like what they're talking about. So, oh, hey, you're in the middle of a conversation with someone. If you're just like, this is the most boring fucking conversation I've ever had in my life, just say, stop, and then just walk away. That's what you do. We'll see you in the next fucking episode.